started when Heston was about 4. He's 11 going on 12 next month. And Heston struggled with attention issues in class, but physically he struggled much more than that. He struggled with constipation, alternating with diarrhea and vomiting. And when we went to traditional pediatricians for assistance, because I was certain there was something wrong with my child, they couldn't give us an answer. We did some testing. We started with some urine testing and some blood testing, and we quickly found out that his intestines didn't absorb the same way that most children's do, and it was dramatically affecting his size on the growth chart as well. So there was numerous factors that led us to get help. Learned how to put food on the table and give foods to Heston that were good for his body and worked well for his body. He began to thrive, and the first thing we noticed within the first 3-4 days was the constipation, and the diarrhea went away. And so as a mom, at the time I had 2 children with small children. That made life a lot more manageable, just that. And then we tweaked things further so that he got the optimum health, and on the growth charts he's towards the higher end, which is miraculous as far as we're concerned. The first part, as I said, started with urine testing, which is, for a 4-year-old, not invasive. They actually think it's kind of fun to pee in a weird container and give it to a doctor. And then there was some blood testing, which was very simple because it wasn't drawing large amounts of blood the way a doctor might do for myself. It was just fingertip pricks and then analyzing that information. I grew up taking vitamins, I grew up taking supplements, and I was giving my boys supplements that I thought were healthy. They were considered top end, higher. They weren't a Walmart brand. They were, from someone I thought I could trust. And those actually were not helping Heston at all. In fact, some of the ingredients were probably contributing to his behavior problems. Could even made him, it was supposed to be in preschool at the time, and he couldn't really function in preschool. He almost came across certain times of the day as aggressive, which was frightening for us. So in doing some investigative work and being open to that, I got him on a different vitamin program, which immediately turned around his behavior and was kind of like pushing a calm button. And if you can push a calm button on a 4-year-old, that's a pretty significant change for a parent or a teacher. It took some more testing to get to the point of fully understanding what Heston couldn't tolerate, and it was also a complete re-education for myself and our family. We live in a very convenient world, and the supermarket is vast with many aisles. And I was shopping all the aisles, not focusing quite as much as I should have on the outside aisles where the fresh fruits and vegetables and meat and other items were. So as we learned and did more reading, and I would call sometimes and say, I don't think I can do this. This is too hard. I can't make everything from scratch. At the same time I was saying and feeling that, I had already learned a lot, but the market had also changed. The availability of products without those preservatives and with just the basic foods in them, they were becoming more and more prevalent. So I feel very fortunate that our quest for change happened it felt simultaneously with kind of a shift nationwide of better eating and more choices. It was challenging because it was a lot of hit and miss to try, I'm trying to think of, your other child has a lollipop from school, and so I had to learn, all right, I have to have something that's similar for him, so there's not a meltdown when we pick brother up from school, that's natural. And there were things that were just made from oranges and apples and grapes and other products. That's maybe not the best example. Go-Gurt. Go-Gurt is a really convenient food, but if you read the label on it, it's pretty toxic stuff. And you think, because of the advertising and the fact that it's got yogurt in it, that you're doing your child's digestive system a favor by giving them this product. And we found that that was one of the things that he loved to eat that we very quickly had to eliminate, and it made a difference. So then so we take away the calcium and the dairy, and I said, but how is my child going to grow? How is he going to have healthy teeth and bones without getting milk? Because milk was just absolutely not working for him. And so we experimented, and he loved almond milk and rice milk, and we began to find more and more products made with those bases that worked for him. And we tried to not just remove the dyes in food coloring, but we tried to eliminate as many preservatives as possible. So if Heston was going to have a donut, there's a bakery in downtown that makes them, and they're wonderful and they're tasty, but you cannot leave them on the counter for long periods of time because they just don't have the chemicals needed to keep a donut delicious and not moldy. So we learned together how to find things, and we would go on a quest for virtually all foods without preservatives. And some people say, oh, that can't be too hard. For me, that was very difficult. I found that challenging, but I do believe it's getting better as the years go on, and more people are aware of the connection between autism, Asperger's, and all those chemical things that just make it so difficult for children's minds to function the way we would like them to. Yeah, and we have Whole Foods, we have Trader Joe's, we have Sprouts, we have a local farmer's market. There's one other. It's all within a 2-mile radius of my house, so I really had no excuse. School had been a serious challenge. School was never easy for Heston. Sitting still, I don't know very many children that do it easily or well without medication. So sometimes I can't help but feel that there's a whole push from the school to medicate children as soon as possible. And by the time he was 6, they were asking us to medicate him, and we absolutely refused. And it was because the side effects were so significant in terms of growth and development. And some people say, well, it's not a bad sacrifice if your child's shorter than they should be if they can pay attention in school. And I just felt that was a huge sacrifice, and I didn't want to have to justify as an adult to him, Mom, I'm only 5'5", but my brother and sister are much taller than I am. What happened here? Dad's big. Maybe he got my short gene, but I would have known in my heart that it would have been related to those medications. And so the school was pushing for that, and they did so for a full 4 years. So this is what the school says, and he's not performing well, and he's not able to do things that other kids normally can do. We did the neurotransmitter supplements, and it was amazing. I would say there's 2 significant successes for my particular child, and the first is that he was able to give eye contact and hold eye contact, which was challenging before, and felt like pretty cut and dry, possibly autism, because from my limited education, that can be one of the indicators. And Heston can look someone in the eye and hold their gaze, and I believe there's a connection there between being healthy and getting what he needs so he can relax and do that. And then the other is from struggling in school and always kind of being towards the lower end. If you divide a classroom of 30 children into groups of 10, there's usually 10 in the middle that are doing fine. There's usually 10 that are struggling, and there's 10 that are excelling. So my son was always in that lower 10 group, really struggling, and struggling with social interactions as well. The supplements, the eliminating things from the food diet and getting healthy overall was a process of change that took perhaps 6 months to a year. But Heston now, he's at grade level and sometimes is towards the top, depending on the subject. So for a mom, that's a big deal, because I was beginning to worry if he could stay in school. He loved school. He wasn't a child that wanted to be homeschooled. He wasn't a child that wanted to be taken away from friends. He wanted to be in that group of pals and do all the things that they're doing. And I see him doing it. I see him doing it really well. And that's a gift, and we're grateful.